Hey guys, Zoo here, casting yet another Starcraft 2 game. This time we're going to have a Protoss vs Terran on Xel'Naga Caverns. Spotting in the bottom position as the pink Protoss, we have EroSTT, going to be calling him Ero for short to keep it simple. And spotting in the top position as the green Terran, we have oGsGon from the oGs Korean team, a very high level Korean team. We're going to be seeing these two players duke it off on Xel'Naga Caverns. Hopefully we're going to see a very exciting game. I've yet to see the results of this game myself. Just a little background information on me. My name is the Zoo. I am a very amateur caster, just beginning to do this. So I'm going to be casting these games without any knowledge of them, so I have no preparation, hopefully making it a little bit more interesting for us both. Throwing on a supply depot right on 9, very typical play. Same with a pylon, going down on 9 as well. Very, very standard stuff. Bring up the production tab. Sorry for not having that up a second ago. And chrono boosting some probes out. Very, very typical play by both players so far. Nothing but workers. No proxies going on. And here comes the Terran player, probably about to throw on his barracks. Gateway being thrown off the Protoss. Here comes a Protoss scout leaving his base. The interesting thing about Xel'Naga Caverns is you have these two towers on either side of this very large gap. These two towers giving a very large amount of vision. He decided not to light the tower, no real reason to. Most likely not going to see some kind of proxy out of the tower, and if he is, he'll know momentarily. And this very large hole in the middle of the map makes for the rush distance to be just a little bit longer because you have to wrap around it no matter which way you, no matter which way you have to wrap around. Showing back, Terran player checking, make sure there's no proxies that have gone down. He's very worried about that, obviously, from any kind of Protoss player. Zapping the poor little SCV working on that thing, getting a couple shots in. His probe looks like he's going to get away without losing a single bit of HP. Shields regenerate extremely fast. Very nice probe micro by Ero. Back to oGsGon. Very typical play. Throwing on his orbital command, getting his gas, and producing a couple Marines. Very, very standard play. SCV going across the map to do any kind of scouting he can. He's already scouted for proxies. Hopefully there's no proxy. Pylon in position in case any drops are going to come. And he's thrown down his cybernetic score. Very, very standard play. Looks like he is going to get a Zealot on the field. Some players decide to go straight for Stalker. He knows he's throwing a Marine, knows that Reapers aren't going to be coming, and knows the Zealot isn't going to be a bad choice at this point. Getting a second gas extremely early. Most likely going to be some kind of tech. Here comes Gon's SCV, excuse me, getting tons of scouting information, knows the cybernetic's down, knows there are two gateways, knows there's two gas, knows that some kind of very gas-heavy army is coming because of very early gas. Back at the Terran base, we see him deciding to throw in a tech lab, two Marines coming out, poking away at this probe. Probe gonna get away with his life, just barely. Marine, no way is gonna chase that probe down and catch it. SCV still being pesky, running laps around here, getting his work out for the day. Zealot in tow, chasing behind him, gonna get that kid off his lawn eventually. Looks like Stalker almost done. Stalker's out. Goodbye, SCV. Not going to make it. Back at the Terran. Looks like he's got two Marines and a Marauder in tow. Looks like he might be doing some kind of Marauder push. Probe sitting at this watchtower. Already got lit up. An extremely early command center for our Terran player. You generally don't see such a fast expansion, especially against Protoss. He's dropping on this expansion right around 24. Here he comes. Here comes the Protoss player. Stalker sees the two Marines. Knows he can win against the Marines. But here comes a Marauder. Backing up, forced to retreat, gonna back on up to his base. Two more gateways going down. Looks like we're gonna see some kind of gateway push. Warp gate, 3/4 way done, still being chrono boosted out. Should be seeing coming at a 3 or 4 gateway push. Here comes two Stalkers and a Zealot, making their way across the field, but they're going to run right into a Marine, and two Marauders should come out in the Protoss's favor. But here comes another Marauder. See what these two players can do with their micro. Sniping that Stalker. One Marine down, two Marines down, Stalker down as well. Looks like that other Marauder's just about to go down. One Marauder versus a Zealot and a Stalker. Look at that Marauder micro running circles around the Stalker. And he's going to get... No, the Zealot does not get the Marauder. Look at that. Marauder slowing down the Zealot. Zealot can't do anything except for slowly walk behind. And up here we have a proxy pylon. That sneaky probe decided to get up there and get that pylon during that fight. Terran player not even aware of the situation yet. And look at that. 3 Stalkers being worked into the Terran's base. Oh, he's got the expansion up, going to the orbital. He spent quite a bit of money working on the expansion, as only operating out of 1 barracks versus the Protoss's 3 gateways. There goes the bunker, bringing his SCVs off the line, trying to defend this. SCVs doing everything they can. Marauder coming into the mix. Marauder slowing it down, making it easier for those SCVs to smack them away. 3 more Stalkers being warped in. 3 Marauders in the field. 2 of the Marauders were almost dead. SCVs still clomping away at those Stalkers. Stalker about to go down. 3 more Stalkers in the mix. This Terran player is going to have a heck of a time defending this. Forced to lift off his expansion, run it back to his base, and hide it. Oh, this is going to be very tough for this Terran player to defend. Bunkers up. Marauder, 2 Marines sitting in the bunker. Whacking away at his expansion. More Stalkers being warped in. Back at the Protoss' base, still operating off of 3 gateways, hasn't expanded, hasn't had anything else on. Decided to add on a robo facility, very interesting play. Throwing these 4 Stalkers, forced retreat, know the bunkers here, know that they're not going to get by this, and the Terran player has been forced to make this expansion into nothing more but an SCV bot. Bring up the income tab, it's going to be very interesting. 24 to 13 SCVs. Our Terran player Gon may be able to produce SCVs twice as fast as our Protoss player, but he's already operating 10 workers behind. This is going to be a huge economic disadvantage. The only thing that's keeping him in this fight right now is his mules, which are allowing him to maintain as high as an income as possible. He just pokes in with his sentry, pokes in with his stalker, knows he's not going to get past that bunker, decides to throw on his own expansion. Very, very standard play. We're probably going to see some kind of observer come out of here. Jumping back to the production tab, we have Marauders and a Starport being added on, as well as combat shields. Stim pack has already been completed. Looks like he might be preparing for some kind of push or a little bit of miss micro, bringing out that Guardian shield for no reason whatsoever other than to look pretty. Here he comes. Nope. Warping in. Another sentry. Looks like he's going to get a little more sentries into the fight, probably to put up Guardian shields to deal with these Marines and their weak attack. Very good versus many smaller attacks as opposed to the larger shots. Starport almost done, still operating with this command center as base. Jumping back to the income tab, has finally started to catch up on the harvester count. 28 to 23, 29 to 24 within 5 SCVs, getting his second gas right now. Back to the Protoss player's base. Here comes an Immortal. Jumping to the units, he did not decide. Oh, no, he did get one Observer. I'm sorry, Observer is making its way across the field right now. Probe lighting up the thing, and he's still got this Terran player boxed in. Very, very abnormal for any player other than the Terran player to be boxing somebody in. Most of the time, the Terran player is the one in that position. Must feel rather strange for our Terran player Gone. Adding on the gas, probe transfer, jumping to the income tab, 29 to 25, and here comes the Immortal. The Immortal is going to have quite a long distance to make it all the way over to his army. We're going to see if he's going to be able to reinforce this before our Terran player is going to bust loose of this with his nice little Bioball, adding on the Medivacs. Our Terran player actually deciding not to even bother with... Oh no, he's going to get his units outside and not deal with that ramp. Absolutely genius play. It looks like our Protoss player is aware of this is happening and is retreating his units right now. Take a look. Where in the world did that observer go? Can we find that observer? And here's the observer. Observer knew that was going. He decides to retreat his forces, adding on a couple more pylons. Still not adding on any more additional warp gates. He's actually supply capped right now. It's 68 out of 68. Bringing up the army tab. We have 68 to 61. Much more gas-heavy army for our Protoss. Very light gas army for our Terran, but that's very typical with a bio army. Here comes the bio army just moving out, finally establishing his expansion much later than he would have liked to. At least he was able to save that command center with his lift-off ability. Scanning, sees the army. Decides actually that he's going to possibly push out. No, he's going to take a quick third expansion. He knows he's behind in this fight. He knows he needs to get some kind of economic advantage going. He needs to get either an attack and decides to go the economic route. Excuse me. Back to the Protoss' base. Second assimilator going up. Very typical play. It looks like he's adding on a Robobay. Going to see some kind of Colossi. Adding on Immortals to this army. Going to be 3 Immortals deep very quickly. This Terran player really needs to do something and do something quickly. This expansion is much later than the Protoss player, and the longer it goes, the longer it's going to be a disadvantage. Actually, jumping the income tab, 1,000 to 760, 42 harvesters to 30. Our Protoss player extremely, extremely ahead in the economy right now. If I could say extremely a few more times, I would. A couple empty drop ships doing a little bit of scouting, I think. Not really sure what that was about. Jumping back to the Terran base, looks like he's going to be using this factory not to scout, just going to block off this little path right here. Not really sure what he's doing with that, if there's any threat of something coming back there, but hey, you never know. Here we go. Commands are almost done. Bio army still moving around. 2 additional barracks added on, bringing his barracks total up to 6, as well as a reactored starport. Engineering bay, probably going to get some kind of upgrades going very soon. Bringing up the army tab, we'll see 98 to 75, still very strong in the Protoss's favor. 44 to 37. Terran slowly bringing back up the harvester count. Bringing up the production tab. We have extended thermal lines being researched to make those Colossi even more potent than they already are. Adding on an additional gateway, bringing his gateway total up to 4. Producing out 4 gateways in a robo facility. Very dominant position for this this Protoss to be adding on the forge, assuming to get gateways, but now the Terran is mining from gold. This Protoss player needs to get aware of this, quickly, or he's going to quickly become behind in the resources after all that time of being ahead. Terran player just poking around, looking for any kind of additional expos. More empty medevacs. Not really sure what he's doing with that. But probably just a little bit of scout and probe, running laps, making sure there's no additional expansions. Eventually, here he comes running in. He's now aware that the gold expansion is here, and he's going to need to do something about this quickly. He can't let this continue. Proxy pylon here, ready to warp in units. Here we go. Probably going to be getting some kind of upgrade. Working on +1 weapons out of this forge for this Protoss player. Protoss player split his army. Looks like he's worried about some kind of drop play. Terran player pretty much starting to gain a foothold, starting to get a dominant position due to this additional expansion. This Protoss player is going to need to either expand or push and to prevent this Terran from gaining any more advantage than he's already gotten. Protoss player finally decided to push out. Got the observer on his units, knows that this is happening, knows the Terran player is pushing out, is decided to go meet the Terran player before the Terran player can make any... Oh, no, Terran player decided to back up, decides the time is not right, looping around, jumping back. Here we go. Engagement started. Taking down one unit, forced to back up, knows these Colossi are dangerous, knows that these Immortals can do heavy damage. Protoss player preparing to expand and take the gold expansion. Here comes the Terran player from the back, trying to snipe the Colossi. Colossi gets by just with no HP at all, but still alive, still shooting. Force fields blocking off the Terran's push, and the Protoss player is going to go back to breaking down these rocks, I imagine, and getting himself an expansion. Terran player forcing those Vikings in, losing a Viking, but finishing that Colossi. Very crucial decision, very important to get that Colossi out of the mix, because those Colossi will melt these bio units in no time at all. Rocks are finally down. Looks like he's about to throw in his gold expansion, but he's been significantly delayed, and especially with this Terran player and his mules being called on the gold expansion, it's only going to get worse. Bring up the income tab. Very close to the income actually right now, 55 harvesters to 48. Protoss player still has more harvesters, has been more consistently producing harvesters, is going to turn out to be able to fill out this expansion much quicker. Here comes the push, coming into this gold expansion, taking out the refinery, and pushing right back. He knows that this planetary forge is going to be a tough nut to crack, decides to back up, just putting on the pressure to keep that Terran away from his own fresh gold expansion. Here comes the Terran player, knows what's up, knows he's trying to protect this expansion, sees the army, decides to back right up, knows he's not going to be able to snipe any kind of nexus, forced to run away. Protoss player in a very dominant position, it seems, bringing up the army table seats, 149-36, so a very close game. A little bit more resources to spend on his army for the Protoss, but nothing too significant. Deciding to wrap, as you'll see, this right here coming into very large plays. They're dancing on both sides of the circle. Deciding to wrap around, no, backing up, just poking, prodding, seeing whatever he could do to do any kind of harassment and prevent that Terran from just spending all day macroing up and about to push his expansion. Throwing out additional pylons, Templar Archives, looks like he's going to throw in some kind of additional storm play. Very interesting play, getting Zealot speed upgrades. Charge Zealots are extremely potent against Bio Ball because it allows those Zealots to get within range and deal with that Marauder slow much quicker and be much stronger meat shields, especially against those Marauders who do much smaller damage against light units. Throwing in a scan, sees a giant ball of Zealots being worked in. Here comes the push. Oh, is that EMPs going down? Very nice EMPs. All the Zealots are melted. Here we go. Terran player in the dominant position. Colossi trying to do as much damage as possible, trying to cut away. Nah, one Colossi down. Starkers dropping like flies. Looks like there's going to be nothing for this Protoss player that's going to be able to do to stop this. Working in Zealots as quickly as possible. Zealots being slowed by the Marauders. The Zealot speed is still not finished yet. If only that had been done in time, it might have made a crucial difference. But now, with the EMP and the tank backup, it looks like there's going to be nothing for this Protoss player to do other than take his beating. Here he comes, Storm being chrono boosted out. He's not going to be able to make this in time. Does not look like one Immortal is not going to be able to defend against this. Here comes the Terran player, Protoss player holding on for dear life, and he good games out. Very excellent game between two very high-level players. The Terran player just was able to get that third expansion going and gain that economic advantage and run that economic advantage into the late game. Very excellent game by oGsGon.